Good morning and welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. I'm John, the host. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for all you do. And please, if you're not at Patreon, get on over there, support us. $2 a month gets you videos, content that you don't get on YouTube, all kinds of other things over on Patreon, news, articles, stories, as much information as you could probably stomach, right? You'll get it there. Plus, early release of videos and content happens over there. So you stay ahead of the game. And if you're at Patreon, thank you so much for everything you do. Okay, let's get into it. This almost feels like a midweek wrap-up, right? That would be the MWWU. Actually, what I want to do is just kind of grab a bunch of stories and give you some perspective, or rather share with you my perspective, see if it fits with your perspective. Now, there's been a lot of comments, even a television series in the last decade called America, only spelled with a K instead of C, and that's kind of a poke. It's a poke at America turning socialist or communist, and we've been incrementally getting there, which aggravates me and you to no end, because we know where it ends. It ends up with gulag-style re-education and extermination camps under communism. It ends up with basically 100% tax. Everything you make will be taxed and taken from you, and you'll be given just what the government can either afford or says you deserve, with some new added modern twists, like social credit score. Right? Are you a good citizen with a K? Right? Are you a good little commie, a Marxist? Well, then you're going to have a higher social score than someone who's critical and has their own thoughts and opinions. And at some point, that won't even be allowed. Still, we're incrementally getting there, and I've got some stories to kind of point to this stuff. What is going on in the world? I've got an article here by offguardian.org. See all links below. Read them if you wish. Okay, there is the 77th Brigade, Influence and Outreach, right? So the Middle East Eye, right, is reporting a story that, if true, meaning this isn't completely corroborated, this isn't completely affirmed, but it does make us ask the question. It brings up the subject here in America, right? What they're saying is a senior Twitter executive with editorial responsibility for the Middle East is also a part-time officer in the British Army's psychological warfare unit, right? Middle East Eye has established. I don't know how well they established it, right? Apparently Gordon McMillan, Twitter's head of editorial for Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. He's a revisionist for the British government in the 77th Brigade. The 77th Brigade is a, quote, counterintelligence group's unit set up to, quote, combat disinformation, end quote, on social media. The translation of that, according to offguardian.org, is they spread pro-Western democracy on Twitter and Facebook. Now, here's what I have to say. It's not pro-democracy or pro-Western. It is pro-establishment, pro-government. So what government does he work for? The UK, British government. So what is his slant? It is pro-government slant. Now, we have had in the United States an admission by the CIA that their officers, their agents, their insiders have infiltrated our media. They admitted that. No, not this week, not last week, but in the 1970s, the CIA admitted to having their officers infiltrated in all the mainstream media networks, print, television, and of course now we have internet, as well as handheld roaming social media internet, like Twitter. So while this story isn't corroborated, it's not being admitted to by the UK or Twitter, but it's a reminder to us of how fragile our republic is, especially when the fourth estate, the media, supposed to be the fourth wing of the government run by the people, owned by the people, is controlled and manipulated by intel, insiders. Now, in our own country, the United States of America, We have social media, disinformation, information, counterintelligence, psychological operations units. And what do you think it is they do? Do you think they're pro-freedom? Do you think they're pro-constitution? Or do you think they're pro-government? That's right. It's not pro-democracy or pro-Western propaganda. It's pro-government. What does the government want? And who is the government? We have to ask. Is the government the Trump administration? No, it is not. If it was, the FBI, the State Department, the CIA would all be what? Cooperating with the president at every turn, right? Because they are, the bureaucracy are, they are administrative arms of the executive branch. It's the best way I can put it. Many of them have presidential appointees to run them. So that means they're an executive arm. They're empowered by the legislature, but they're executive arms. So it should really be that the propaganda arm of the government should flow to the president's, right, policies, but it doesn't. It's the military-industrial complex, it's the State Department, it's the tax department, right? But it is the military that seems to have the most interest, psychological operations. This is psychological warfare. In other words, they're engaged to frame people, to influence people. And by frame, I mean the way the FBI has demonstrated again and again that they will infiltrate a civilian group that is not criminal, and they will introduce criminal concepts into it and push for those groups to commit crimes. And then they will bust them once they have agreed to commit crimes with each other, right? They start conspiring. They either develop bombs or some attack strategy, and the FBI comes in and busts them and says, look what a great job we did, leaving out the fact that they have infiltrated with the purpose of causing them to take aggressive, violent, criminal, terrorist action. To me, that sounds like terrorism for the sake of creating more terrorism to justify the existence of specific law enforcement agencies, right? It just doesn't smell right. But we do know that our intelligence communities, both foreign and domestic, have admitted that they participate in controlling what it is we believe. It is an information war. Moving along, speaking of information and how the people are influenced, Universal Basic Income, also known as UBI, is an idea that's been put forward by the likes of Mark Zuckerberg, you know, the CEO of Facebook, the guy who stole it from his partners and then profited tremendously. Sounds like Bill Gates. Yeah, it sounds like a formula that works. Anyways, they have been introducing the idea of universal basic income, and it was even tried in the city of Stockton, California. And that is that the government provides people with a minimum basic income, say $1,000 a month. And you get that, like it or not. And it's taxable income, I'm sure, like it or not. But it bolsters people's salary. And I'm sure there's a certain level where, you know, you reach, and in taxes, you're going to be taxed more than the universal basic income. Once again, it's a clever scheme from which to defraud people who make more money to transfer it to lower. It's another wealth redistribution, aka Marxist program on our way to Marxism in America. That's what the program is, but there's some interesting information. While they are winning the push towards socialism, they haven't got there yet. UBI, Universal Basic Income, according to news.gallup.com, that's right, the Gallup poll people, UBI income is favored in the Canada and the United Kingdom, Britain, but not in the US. And I will say not yet. So Canada and UK, they have a majority of their population. In the UK, 77% of people say they like it. In Canada, 75%. But in the United States, only 43% of the people support universal basic income. Now, if I remember right, the American people really didn't support the idea of Obamacare, especially when they were told that Congress has to pass it before we can read what's in the fucking legislation. But they did it anyway, is the point. Against everyone's better judgment. UBI is coming. They don't have full American support yet. But you can bet your ass that if someone like Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren or, God forbid, Beto the butt sniff, right, we will be forced to choke it down. Hey, look, if I got it, I'm sure I would get, full amount. I'm a poor guy. I am now considered the working poor, I think. Do I want it? Well, sure, who doesn't want free money? No, I don't think America should have it, and I don't want it. But they're going to transfer the money to our bank accounts. They're going to send you and me a check. And if you don't cash that check, guess what? They have a record that they sent you $12,000 in a year, and you will be taxed for it. Oh, you don't want it? Go ahead, give it all back after you've been taxed for it. You see, that's the idea, is if you think taxes are a great idea, go ahead and pay more voluntarily, but leave me the fuck alone. Keep me out of this system. Stop making me pay for a system I don't want. But that's not the America that the progressive, Democrat, liberal, socialist, communist want, right? They're crazy. So, but let's take a look a little deeper. In America, 43% of people want it, right? So we can guess, right, where those come from. Well, we don't need to guess anymore. Let's take a look where the numbers are. People who are 65 and above, guess what? 32% of them want it. 50 to 64, I'm at the bottom of that age group. 34% want it. Age 30 to 49, 51% want it. And ages 18 to 29. In other words, millennials and Gen Zers, 59% of them want it because they see it as a supplemental pay to their income. They don't care where it comes from. In fact, I have to say this right now, Democrats, socialist Democrats, all those fucking idiots on the left, they actually believe that the government can just print money as much as they want. And so it's not costing anyone anything. Democrats believe, honestly, that there's this big room called the U.S. Treasury that is stacked to the ceiling with paper money that they can just give out. Why not give it to the people? It's the people's money, is it not? They don't understand that the money that got into that treasury that they imagine exists was paid by taxpayers. They don't understand that if you make more money, you pay more in taxes than you'll get out of this. But the millennials and the Gen Z Democrats, not the Republican millennials and not the Gen Z Republicans, not those, I'm talking about the leftist twerps. Those people believe that Gen X and the boomers, anyone basically age 40 and older, are stealing money from them and withholding money and wealth from them. They believe that the government is withholding their money. That's what they really believe, and that's why they are supporting this. Right? You can see who's going to be Democrat when they get older. Age 18 to 29, 59%. That is where this country is going. It is going socialist. Now, I want to say this. As these young dipshits grow up, get real jobs, start paying more taxes, and they realize, hey, this is costing me more than it's worth, they will slowly convert to Republican thinking, conservative thinking, lower tax thinking. But for the time being, they are strongly on the side, right, of the dark side of the force. In other words, they're going to be encouraged by people like Elizabeth Warren. Crazy business. We are progressively heading, incrementally heading towards America. Now, here we got a story by Politico.com. Whistleblower's attorney says 60 Minutes misinterpreted the letter in the Federal Protection Report. Right? An attorney for the whistleblower in the Trump-Ukraine scandal said Sunday that CBS's 60 Minutes had completely misinterpreted a document from his legal group after the news outlet tweeted that the whistleblower was now under federal protection. Right? The 60 Minutes has obtained a letter that indicates the government whistleblower who set off the impeachment inquiry of President Trump is under federal protection because they fear for their safety. Right? They misreport everything, but it's always misreported in favor of the incremental socialist agenda. It also looks like this report put out by the whistleblower was written by attorneys. It was crafted in such a way to demonstrate that he followed the rules, that everything is illegal, and they also changed, and this is being proven right now. I don't have proof. It's an allegation that the Democrats changed the rules for whistleblowers after the fact, that is, ex post facto, this guy writing this letter that was helped by attorneys. To go another step further, what was that change in the whistleblower rules? It is to allow hearsay. That is, that guy 100 feet over there whispered something in that other guy's ear. And that other guy came down here and told me what he said. And so now that, what I have to say about what that guy reported that the other guy said in a court of law is inadmissible because it is hearsay. It could have been changed, confabulated, embellished, a complete total lie, or it could be the truth. And since it can't be established, there is no verification, the best it can be is, well, if I say Mark told me what Jim said, then the court can call Mark up as a first-degree witness. But me saying anything about it is hearsay because I wasn't part of the conversation or my eyes didn't see a piece of paper. But the Democrats have changed the rules to allow hearsay. And they're going to use hearsay evidence, which is the worst type of evidence. It is the weakest because it cannot be verified and double-checked. All it can do is be corroborated by another potential witness. But it is still just hearsay. And therefore, in a regular court environment, it'll be thrown out. Would you like it if somebody could make up a story about you, lie, and have that stand as evidence? Where's your proof? Right? Proof is beyond a shadow of a doubt. Proof is real evidence. We're now going to allow someone's opinion, what someone thinks they heard. What, just kind of like 60 Minutes. They had a letter in front of them, but they misinterpreted it and then reported it as news. You've got someone who heard something, misinterpreting it, and is going to report it to the impeachment court. Right? Remember, impeachment starts in the House of Representatives. Impeachment is kind of like a grand jury investigation. They decide if there's enough evidence to refer it up to the Senate for trial. It's ridiculous. Anyways, it lets you know what kind of country do you live in. What are we doing socially? What are we doing legally? What are we doing politically? What is behind the scenes? The executive arm of the government doing? What are they doing? They're working in favor of the government, not in favor of the people. Moving along. Girl admits to hate crime hoax at school where Karen Pence teaches. Well, who gives a shit if Karen Pence teaches there? But anyways, that's part of the headline. So there is a girl. I'm reading now. Last week, 12-year-old black student Amari Allen said 3 boys from her school, who she said are white, cut off her hair on Monday. She has attended this school since kindergarten and has always liked it. NBC Washington takes the time to note, is a straight A student and violin player. That's terrific. Said the boys started bullying her at the beginning of the school year. It was like she just died. That's how painful it was for me, she said. Amari's grandfather said it also hurt him. My heart just broke, he said. I was just paralyzed. I couldn't get myself together. Now, I'm going to introduce some perspective here. When I was a kid, a young man, high school, grade school, primary school, I got bullied. You could be beat up, you could be teased, you could be pushed, you could have your lunch taken from you, you could have money taken off you, you could be chased, pummeled in school, out of school. And to me, it didn't matter what color the people were. It didn't indicate racism, even though I was called, get this, I was called Honky, Whitey, Ghost, Casper. I was also called an albino in I think, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade when people learned what an albino was. I was called an albino. right? All of these had to do with my skin color, but it wasn't racism in my definition. It was people bullying me in my definition, right? Today it would be called, well, I'm white, so it still wouldn't be racism. It would be social justice visited on white European patriarchal descended toxic masculine guy, a heterosexual evil Christian guy, right? But in truth, if you want, you could say, well, it was racism. But on the other hand, I took it as not racism, but there is a label, a way to identify me. Hey, Casper, we're going to kick your ass, right? White ghost, right? It cracked me up in a way, but I had to run for my life, right? Did they ever catch me and beat me? On time to time, yes. Most of the time, I could outrun them. I was a fast little, fast little white kid. I used to have people go, man, you're fast. I go, I'm fucking scared sometimes too. Anyways, the point is that bullies do what they do because they're bullies and they look for victims. If this girl was a straight A student, that makes her a nerd. If she's a violin player, that makes her a band nerd, which is awesome. She's smart and she plays music. She's gifted and talented. Those type of people are targets of bullies, regardless of color. Bullies find somebody that cowers to them and they pick on them. Bullies get a rise out of teasing people, beating people up, taking from them, right? It's an attitude they have. It doesn't mean they're racist. But in today's political America environment, everything is racist. Everything is racist. These could have been black boys that cut her hair, and it wouldn't be racism, and it wouldn't be a fucking news story. But because the boys are white and bullies, this is called racism. Because anything a white person does is racist, misogynist, hetero, European, patriarchal driven. All of those negative, triggering words and terms and ideas that just fly out of the mouths and out of the butts of these idiots. But here's the deal. For some reason, this girl lied. Her hair wasn't cut by 3 white boys. While race-based hate attacks play well into the narrative of the liberal media, right, they would like to paint about racist deplorables who need to know their place in the world and leave it to them, that is the social justice warriors, to run the world. One would think at least a second, though, while given to the farce that was and is Jussie Smollett's fake attack in Chicago. Right? This is getting bad, right? The media ran with it without questioning its reality. NBC News wrote, 3 6th grade white boys at a Christian school in Virginia where Vice President Mike Pence's wife works cut a black girl's hair, calling it nappy and her ugly, the girl says. That sounds horrible, right? And nappy is, of course, the word that was used to take down a white old male shock jock. Can't remember his name currently because I never listened to him. Imus in the morning. Took him down because he used the word nappy. You're not allowed to say anything that offends anybody if they say there's a racist connotation to it. You can't say anything, nappy included, right? I mean, I can't even say the N-word because the N-word would imply that I'm a racist for saying it. I'm not allowed to even say the N-word, right? It makes you sound like some kind of 3rd grade fucking student, some kid hiding N-word and then snickering, hee, I said it, it's dirty. Right? It'll get you fired now. It'll get you ruined. It's ridiculous. It's just a fucking word. Like I said, I was called, let's see, cracker, whitey, honky, Casper, ghost. Name it. In fact, I think I refer to myself as a honky because it's funny. I don't give a shit what anyone else says about me. I mean, give me a fucking break. You think I don't know I'm white? Okay. Somehow, right, this came out that it wasn't the truth. The girl's family has apologized in the statement. To those young boys and their parents, we sincerely apologize for the pain and anxiety these allegations have caused. quote, Alan's grandparents wrote in a statement according to the Washington Post. Quote, to the administrators and families of Emmanuel Christian School, we are sorry for the damage this incident has done to trust within the school family and the undue scorn it has brought to the school. To the broader community who rallied in such passionate support for our daughter, we apologize for betraying your trust. That's correct. This was a total betrayal of the black community, the white community, the any color community, the school, the reputation of these boys who did nothing. But this is the America that says, make yourself a victim and you will succeed. You'll get that job. You'll get sympathy. You'll get love. For any number of reasons, it's good to be a victim. That's the America that they want, where everyone's afraid to say the N-word. To point out, that's a woman. No, it's not, because she says she's not a woman. But she's got a vagina. That makes her a woman. Well, she could get a change. Okay. Get a change, grow a mustache, and then we'll talk. Right? And John, how can you say that? That's so wrong of you. You're bullying someone, by golly. No. I can make observations about the fucking world I live in. If someone's black, I can say they're black. If someone's brown, I can say they're brown. If someone's white, I can say they're white. If they're Native American, if they're native from the country of India, right? It doesn't fucking matter. If you're a Chinese man, is it wrong to say Chinaman? Or do you just say Chinese man? What's the difference? You've identified them as Chinese and as a man, or a Chinese woman, right? Or a Japanese man or a Japanese woman. It's to me, it's this idea that you can't, it's a label that's negative just to point out something you observe. I've been told in the big cities, and I don't see this because I live in a little city, but in the big cities, the newspapers and television do not report when describing a criminal suspect that's on the loose. They don't give you any description of what they look like. Well, he was wearing some blue jeans and a red hat and a hoodie pulled over his hat, and he had white sneakers on, but they don't tell you the race. They don't, well, I think they don't tell the age anymore. Don't want to identify someone's age. That's age discrimination. No, it isn't. It's age identification. You're trying to identify a criminal. So you identify them by what they look like. It's a description. Being black or brown or white or red or yellow or any other fucking color in the rainbow isn't negative. Like I said, I was called Whitey a lot. Hey, Whitey! It's funny. I'm like, okay, someone just yelled Whitey somewhere behind me. And since I'm the whitest guy, I bet they're talking about me. What? Hey, albino! I can't tell you how many times I've heard that, right? And when I hear, hey, Casper, right? Looking, there's two black guys standing there, and they were kids, and I was a kid, right? I turn around, look at the black guys, and they're like, right, and they lift their fist like they're gonna, pop me. I run. They start laughing. Right? They're kids. We need to lighten up, but not in America, not in a socialist country where they're taking over the language, 1984 style. This is where the country's going. And I know I've dwelled on this story a lot, but it's another example of someone using race to play the victim. It's wrong, but it's done for a reason because they can get away with it until they get caught. And then they reveal their agenda. And speaking of revealing the agenda, the House Democrats have subpoenaed Rudy Giuliani, attorney to the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Right? And they call it that the president has a scheme to investigate Biden. The left, the progressive socialist, Marxist, communist Democrats, the left, use words like scheme to make it sound illegal. Schemes are not illegal. That said, anything they want to say is moral and upright. They pretend to be the moral authority of everything. And the problem we have as Americans is we've been cowered into not saying anything, not just the N-word, but saying anything about anybody. If you say anything, you can even be anti-Antifa, and you will be labeled as a what? a white supremacist for opposing Marxism, for opposing a violent Marxist terrorist group. You are a white supremacist, according to who? The Southern Poverty Law Center, or is it the ACLU, or is it both? It doesn't matter. That is what they want. They want to silence you. And we've got to remember that us, as patriots, if we're silenced and if they take our Second Amendment, you've got no way to protect yourself intellectually or physically. And that is how countries are destroyed, brought to ruin, and transformed into Marxist socialist deserts like Venezuela. I believe, was it 10 years ago or 15 years ago, Venezuela was considered the fourth freest country on the planet. It had the most liberties, the most freedoms, I guess. And now it is in shambles. It's destroyed. They have no infrastructure for their economy. They can't grow. They have no money. Their people are literally starving. They have hyperinflation, where a bolivar, their version of a dollar, is traded in the millions to one, right? $1 US, millions of bolivar. That's how much money they printed. Oh, but UBI works. In printing money, there's no consequence. Modern monetary theory, no consequence to the economy and to the people. Really, take a look at Venezuela. They printed away, and now their money is worthless. You can spend 1 million bolivar, and you won't get a cup of coffee. You can spend 5 million bolivar and get 1 cup of coffee, and you could come back for a second cup, and it could be 5,100,000 bolivar. Just like that. Because the currency is worthless. It's worthless, worth less, because they printed so much. This is what we're doing. This is why I brought this up as the midweek weekly wrap-up. It is to demonstrate and point out where they're taking us and why shit is going to hit the fan. What is going on this week alone so far? Why are these stories important? Because the hammer is coming down on our system. In other words, it is no longer a covert fight. They are covert with social media. They are overt with regular media. Politically, they're in our face, and socially, they're in our ass. And that's not a homosexual joke. It's a puppet joke. Got your hand up there trying to work us, right? Just horrifying. Anyways, I want to thank everybody for the support here on the Prepared Mind Network, and I'll talk to you all again very, very soon. Godspeed, Semper Fi.